Welcome everyone to Candidates Night 2011. I'm Ted Parmenter, member of the Exchange Club. We present this most every year as a service to the community to help introduce the candidates to the voters. Glad to see the turnout this evening. This program is being broadcast live this evening. It'll be rebroadcast many times until the elections. So just keep that in mind. For the folks at home, I'm not sure what the exact schedule is, but they can check that online, what the rebroadcast schedule is. The Exchange Club is a local service club of professional men and women serving Merrimack with a focus on youth programs such as Merrimack High Youth of the Month, Top 10 Scholars, Recognition Dinner, Scholarship for graduating seniors. We've been in the community and active since 1984. I'm sure many of you recognize some of us for our twice-a-year peanut sales, mainly at the transfer station. But thank you very much for supporting us so we can bring you programs such as this. We do appreciate that. This evening, Ed Smith is here with the Exchange Club as well, sitting in the back. Those of you that would like to submit questions for the candidates, Ed has some cards and some pencils. Just raise your hand. He'll bring you some cards and pencils, and when you're ready, let him know, and he'll pick them up and bring them up to me so we can try and get plenty of questions for the candidates. The election information. Election day is April 12th, 7 to 8 p.m. Precinct 1 at the all-purpose room at the Mastrocola Elementary School. The Precinct 2 is St. John Newman's Church. Precinct 3 is St. James Church. This evening, each candidate will be given about 3 minutes to introduce themselves and make an opening statement. Which time, when everybody has had that intro, we will then begin with the questions from the audience. Each candidate will have a reasonable amount of time to reply to the questions. All the questions should be addressed to all candidates for a position, either all candidates for the school board or all candidates for the town council, not directly to a specific candidate. In the back, the table's been made available for any of the candidates that wish to bring in some literature information for you. I'm not so sure who's taken advantage of that, but you might check out the table. There may be some information back there that you're interested in. Normally, we try to bring this to conclusion by about 8:30, just to give you an idea. And a lot depends on the questions and how many questions we have and so on, and how much time people take. But at this time, I'd like to begin with the introductions from the candidates. And if we can start with the school board, I would just right on the table, Mr. Markwell, if you would, please. Now, I forgot to mention, the microphones are normally off. When you get ready to speak, push the push button. The light should turn a bright green. The microphone is on. When you're done talking, if you don't want to be heard, turn this microphone off. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm George Markwell. I'm a candidate for school board. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to Candidates Night, watching at home, and to the Exchange Club for hosting the event. I'm here to ask for your support and vote to be elected to the Merrimack School Board. I've garnered the necessary skills serving on the school board and the school budget committee to face the challenges Merrimack schools are currently experiencing. It will benefit the students, the staff, and the taxpayers of our town to have a real choice on the school board. A little about me. I've been in Merrimack for 16 years, active with the town and town politics since 2003. Served on the Merrimack School Board from 2005 till 2008. During that time, I've served on committees, technology, Parks and Recreation, School Planning and Building, the Budget Committee, Wellness Policy Implementation, the Drug Advisory, and SERASC. I'm currently seated on the Merrimack School Budget Committee. My term is from 2010 till 2013, and I volunteer with various dog rescue groups throughout New Hampshire. Reason for running. The school board, in my opinion, has made several decisions that need to be corrected. With your support, together, we can make those corrections. The November election represented a political shift, a rethinking in state spending. Revenue forecasts have been over-exuberant, while massive deficit entailed creating a downshifting of costs. The board should have recognized back in November when Business Administrator Matt Chavanel advised the board that CAD aid was $200K below the basement, that revenues were going to be limited, and the cut should have begun then. The school board did ignore the warning signs coming from Concord. I was one of two proposing thoughtful cuts that would have protected co-curricular and the staff. One thing the voters did say loud and clear: we want little or no staff cuts. This was echoed at the deliberative session. With cuts to state aid looming, there has to be a give or a large tax spike. At the end, the town should be prepared to embrace tax increases of anywhere from $1.1 to $2.1 million, and it could be more. My goal, staff last. My plan and my hope is that the proposed teacher's contract will be voted down. This will provide the flexibility to avoid pay raises and pink slips. The current school board thinks that's a good idea. I do not. I will look at entry doors, paving, supplies, and others, and also hope to get a new contract without pay raises and with health care concessions. I urge the voters to vote no on warrant 3, which will force pink slips and pay raises. And I also encourage the voters to vote no on warrant 5. We should not be building a new building with staff layoffs and reduced state aid looming. Thank you, and I hope you'll vote for George Markwell on April 12th.
Thank you. Mr. Swanger, please.
Good evening. My name is Roy Swanger. I'd like to thank the Exchange Club for once again running Candidates Night. I think it's a great service to the town, and thank everybody for attending and those taking the time to watch it on television. I have been on the school board for the last 3 years, and I think that my record shows that over that time we've taken a very prudent course with the school district. We've cut staff to match our declining enrollments. We've maintained a level of cost that is actually now below the state average while still delivering really excellent results. We send more kids to four-year colleges out of our high school than just about any district around, including many that spend a great deal more than we do. We have a dropout rate that is less than, or about half the state average, and again, one of the lowest around. And we've seen incredible success in our extracurriculars, such as the first robotics team, which is out competing in Las Vegas this week in the Science Olympiad, which had stunning success again last week, taking first and second place, and even in our athletics as well. So I think the main focus I've had is really to maintain that level of balance of trying to get above average results for a below average cost. And it's pretty incredible we've been able to do that for the last 3 years without any dramatic or extreme cuts or without spending too much. Yeah, we do recognize it's tough economic times, and the school board has put forth proposals to address that with cuts that the deliberative session frankly turned down. And of course we abide by the will of the people. And the other thing that has been remarkable, I think, about the school board over the last year especially is the way that all of the members have worked together and worked towards the same goals of furthering the interests of the school district. Of course, the children first, but also the taxpayers in town and the staff, all of the constituents who have an interest in our district. I hope to continue this. I've learned a lot in my first term on the board. I think I have a lot more to offer over the next term, and I really, truly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd, please.
Thank you, Mr. Parmenter. And thanks to the Exchange Club and to Cable Access for providing the service to the community of Merrimack this evening. My name is Bill Boyd, and I'm a candidate for the Town Council. I'm a resident of Joppa Road, where my wife and I have resided for 6 years. My wife was born and raised here, and when we got married, we chose Merrimack as a place to work, live, and raise our family. So we've been very blessed to be in the town of Merrimack especially for me for the past 6 years. During that time, I've been active in community affairs. I've served on the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee for 3 years, 2 years of it as its chairman. I'm currently a member of the planning board. I'm in my 4th year on the planning board, and I just wrapped up my 1st year on the school budget committee. I'm a proud Boston College graduate, and I currently am employed at United Healthcare up in Hooksett, New Hampshire as account manager. The reason why I wanted to run for town council is a couple of different things. Keith Hickey's departure created a vacancy. We have a new town manager coming to town, and with that particular change coming in with the issues going on with Chelsea, our solid waste issues, proceeded to provide, created an element of opportunity for myself to step up and use the experiences that I have to help the town navigate a particular course over the next 3 to 5 years. The town is going through tremendous growth and tremendous change, and with that change, there are going to be serious issues that are presented to the community that are going to require a serious thought process and serious leadership to not only take care of dealing with the fiscal issues that are going on in town, but also to mitigate and promulgate growth in the town, which we know is going to be critical for the town to make its way through this particular time, economic time. Mike Milligan's moved on to greener pastures, and the untimely passing of Walter Warren has created significant leadership void in Town Hall. It's going to be the town manager's responsibility to select new individuals to fill those departments, and I certainly would like to be a part of the process, the advise and consent process of working with the town manager to make sure that we've got not just a quality management team in place, but a competent management team that can execute not what the town council is asking them to do, but also execute on behalf of the citizens in the town of Merrimack. So as we go along through the night, I'm sure everybody will have some questions, and I'll use that opportunity to flesh out some of the concerns and the ideas that I have. But the one thing that I would point out, the real primary reason is that we need to be moving Merrimack forward. We need to be doing everything that we possibly can to make our community a strong and vibrant community that provides a quality of life that we all can appreciate. So thank you very much for your time for listening, and again, thank you to the Exchange Club for the forum.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Mr. Wyman?
Oh, here we go again. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the Exchange Club and everybody out here. I'm the guy up here with the big target. I ran before. I'm a little bit more interested with some more facts and figures and the way this town is going. I moved here with my wife in 92. It's a great town. I had plenty of other choices, but I chose Merrimack. There's a lot of advantages here, and what I want to do is run and help continue those advantages. The last census said we had 27,000. The last number I heard, we were down to 25,000 something. So we have lost citizens. There's a lot of homes up on the market. There's still foreclosures going on. Gasoline prices are going up. I see our taxes going up. And I myself want to try and get those lower. Now, I do want to say one thing. The present town council with the budget, they had a hard row to hoe. They did come up with a budget, and there's just so much money that can be used. But I have to admire their hard tenacity, their hard work, and they gave us a budget. Now it's up to us to work on it, accept it, or not. But I think that the present council should get a big thank you from all of us. As you all know, I'm retired military. I was in the American Legion. I was a Mason. I've not held any office here in town, but I am a concerned taxpayer and resident, and that's what makes me want to run. And I do have a dog, and it is Greyhound. Other than that, thank you all for coming. You'll hear more from me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Finley? Mr. Rothaus, please. Mr. Finley Rothaus?
The hazard of two last names. Thanks, Ted. And I'd like to thank the Exchange Club for hosting the Candidates Forum and allowing this opportunity tonight for the discussion that will follow. My name is Finley Rothaus, and I'm asking for your support on April 12th in my bid for a seat to the Town Council. I currently reside at 14 Kittredge Lane, and for the past 40 years have called Merrimack home. Upon his retirement from the Navy in August of 1971, my dad brought our family up to a little town on the Merrimack River in southern New Hampshire. At the time, the town had about 6,000 people. The town also had 2 post offices. It had a blinking light at the intersection of Route 3 and Babusk Lake Road. And Anheuser-Busch became our first of many corporate neighbors who have helped shape the town to what it is today. I graduated from Merrimack High School in 1975, and in November of that year, I enlisted in the United States Army. I spent time in Central Europe working as medical support for a tanking unit in the 3rd Armored Division. 10 years later, I married my best friend, Lori Goodrich, who taught at Merrimack High School for 24 years. We have 3 wonderful children, Aaron, Ryan, and Sarah. Aaron just finished grad school this past August, and in the same month landed her first real job as a speech-language pathologist. Our son Ryan is a senior at Plymouth State University, closing in on his criminal justice degree. Will be finishing up this spring. And our baby Sarah is a freshman at Keene State College, following in her mother's footsteps in education. Together, our family has seen tremendous growth in our town, and although as a community we have occasionally experienced some growing pains and may continue to do so from time to time, I believe Merrimack's transformation over all these years has been a positive one. As the economy rebounds, Merrimack is poised to take advantage of the renewed growth that we will experience. With the near completion of the Manchester Airport Access Road in the north end of town, and the Chelsea outlets that will be opening in late 2012 in the south, I anticipate continued great things happening in Merrimack. I'm running for re-election to the Town Council because I believe my experience and ability to hold the line while supporting our town's needs are essential as we embrace our new town manager, Eileen Cabanel. Merrimack needs consistent leadership and a town council people can trust. My core values include integrity, honesty, and respect. Again, I would thank you for this opportunity and hope that after expanding on my ideas throughout the evening that I'm able to earn your support on April 12th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rothaus. Mrs. Snell?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Carrie Snell, and I'm running for a seat on the Town Council. I'd like to thank Mr. Parmenter and the Exchange Club of Merrimack for hosting this evening's Candidates Forum. The people at home in Merrimack that are watching this evening, along with Cable Access TV for their service, and those here tonight supporting our meeting. I decided to run for Town Council because I feel there's always a need for an incoming group of people willing to take on responsibilities since we live here as well. I can listen to both sides of an argument, ask questions, I can research problems, and make a decision that will be beneficial to the town of Merrimack. I currently am an electrical construction project manager for a company called Rexel USA, which is one of the largest electrical distributors in the country. I've resided here in Merrimack for 12 years with my husband Brian and my son Brandon. I've held key positions with companies, as well as I regularly volunteer with organizations such as the American Red Cross and the Bone Marrow Registry. I would like to, I feel that in a time where the growth in Merrimack is upon us and costs are escalating for services, I feel we need to maintain the required services that our town enjoys and be able to find cost avoidance measures to ease our tax burden. By bringing in businesses to fill all those vacant buildings we see along Daniel Webster Highway, I feel we can increase our revenues by having those storefronts filled. I will be looking out for what's best in Merrimack if elected, and I would appreciate your support on April 12th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Snell. Okay, that concludes the intro. If anybody has any questions written down, just raise your hand. Ed will, or Sally will help. We'll come in. If you need more cards for questions, let him know. He has cards and pencils. So please bring in your questions. In the meantime, I'll start with the town council. First question, Article 3 on this year's warrant. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,550,000 for the construction and original equipping of the new South Fire Station and authorize the issuance of not more than $1,900,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act? I would like each of you to just give your positions, your comments on Article 3. And we'll rotate so the same person isn't answering the question first every time. So I'm just rotating alphabetically. Mr. Lynham, if you would, please. Again, is your position and thoughts on Article 3 for the new South Merrimack Fire Station?
Thank you. That's a toughie. I know we respect our police and our firemen, and I know the school board is donating the land, and Chelsea is donating $600,000 plus, but that still leaves us about $1.2 million, 1.3 to finance, get a bond, and with everything else in here, I don't see right now is a good time. It'd be a nice thing to have. Maybe we could do it next year if we didn't have all these other high ticket items. Unfortunately, we've got to put the money in other uses or reduce it, give it back to the taxpayers. Let's start relieving their burden. With the fuel costs going up, your federal taxes are definitely going to go up. It's just a matter of time, and that's already in the works. So right now, I can't. And that's not to say if the voters approve it and they want it, I'll abide by their thoughts. But personally, I don't think we can afford it right now.
Thank you. Mr. Rothaus, please.
Thanks. With the South Station bond and having that ability to utilize the school district property that's located on Continental Boulevard, I believe it is a good investment for the town, and I base that on the Chelsea Outlet Mall's part of the conditions of their being able to build in town was to contribute about $650,000 that would be utilized to offset the increased costs that they would cause to our fire services, our fire rescue services. That $650,000 came off the top of that $2.5 million number, and it left us with the need to bond $1.9 million. The reason I believe it is a good investment is because the current South Station requires anywhere from $800,000 to $1 million worth of renovations in order to bring it up to code. And so something would have to be done with the station, in my estimation, if we don't address the new facility. If you take those renovations off the top, it actually makes the bond that more palatable, and I think, again, that it's a good investment for Merrimack. And I guess one last thing is it will accommodate the needs for the community probably 50 years out at that point. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Snell, would you please respond?
Thank you. My feeling is, as far as a new fire station in the south end, I think with the growth that we're seeing in Merrimack, I think that it's an important decision to be made. I feel that the contribution, if you will, from Chelsea, as far as the money that has been set aside to help offset some of the costs for that, after seeing Chief Currier's presentation and to see the conditions that they're working in, I just don't think that it's adequate, again, for the growth of the town, that it's not something that's taken care of. Again, the money is there, whether we decide to do it this year or it takes place next year, but I think it's absolutely a necessity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd, please.
I support the new fire station for a couple of different reasons. First off, the $650,000 that we received from Chelsea was actually part of a negotiation with the planning board during the whole permitting process that Chelsea went through to build. And one of the provisos was to have the appropriate infrastructure in place in the south end of town to make that accommodation for their growth. Secondly, it's a tremendous economic development piece. I mean, how are we going to attract businesses to the community of Merrimack if we cannot be able to provide them some assurance from a public safety standpoint that we're not going to be able to get the appropriate apparatus to their location to, God forbid, first respond with somebody that is in need of medical attention, or there's a casualty event, water, fire, that kind of thing. So I think from an economic development standpoint, it certainly can assist the community of the town of Merrimack in trying to prime certain locations in town as to what we're doing to promote economic growth. Thirdly, it's people may talk about that it's not strategically located well, but I would argue that because you're in the south end of town, you're on Continental Boulevard, you're right near the turnpike, you can have a fire engine go up and down the turnpike, tremendous ease of access to go from one end to the town or the other. I would hesitate to think about having a fire engine having to go to Chelsea at 5:30 in the evening and having to go from the central ball station with the bottleneck at Chamberlain Bridge. And I think, to me, and that from my standpoint, that's problematic. So while it may not have an ancillary benefit, I think strategically it allows the fire chief to reallocate his fire resources with some of the other buildings that we have in town to accommodate the response time that may be slightly delayed because apparatus is coming from the south end of town. But they're coming up the turnpike and they're going to be able to get off of the exits and be able to assist. And lastly, from some of my conversations that we've talked about at the planning board level, and kind of echo what Councilor Rothaus has said, we're going to spend more money renovating these buildings, and we're probably going to end up coming back to the drawing board 5-10 years down the road, and we're going to be having the same discussion all over again. I'm not the type of person that feels that we should be spending money when things are tight, but I think with the way prices are low right now, with interest rates being at a really good rate, with the municipal bond market being very steady right now, I think it poses, and talk about bonds, the town of Merrimack has an excellent bond rating as well. I think it presents a unique opportunity to create another jewel in the town of Merrimack.
Thank you. For the school board, what fraction of a $65 million school budget would you describe as discretionary, i.e. special services contains many state and federal mandates, so this would be non-discretionary spending? And given that the sum total of all budget committee changes in the last 5 years, since 2007, represents only 0.2% of this year's total operating budget, How would you characterize the need for this committee on a spectrum ranging from unnecessary bureaucracy to absolutely essential oversight? Okay. Mr. Markwell, would you, excuse me, Mr. Swanger.
Sure. So looking at the question of how much is discretionary in the school budget, well, if you just looked at doing the state minimum standards, then there would be quite a bit, and I wouldn't be able to quote a fraction, because the state says that you could have 30 students in every classroom. There are a lot of subjects that we wouldn't necessarily have to teach. You know, we don't have to have the number of foreign languages that we do. We wouldn't even have to necessarily offer things like AP classes. So if you look at, from a pure discretionary point of view, you could look at it that way, but I think that would be very damaging to the town and to the district, because what we want to do in our district is provide a high-quality public education that enables our students to go on into any walk of life that they want to pursue, whether it's a four-year school, community college, armed forces, or learn a trade. So from a discretionary point of view, yeah, we have extracurriculars, we have athletics, and so on, but I view those as necessary to providing a well-rounded and forward-thinking education. And that's why, for example, Merrimack now sends so many kids to four-year colleges. In terms of the budget committee, that was a significant change when we went through the whole town charter revision, where we used to have a budget committee that would look at both the town and school sides of the ledger and in some ways try to balance, in much the same way the planning board does, balance what's going on one side with the other. Because as we all know, all of these taxes, whether they come from the town side or the school side, come out of the same wallets, right? Same taxpayers. Over the last few years, and I did serve on the budget committee, and I still hold the distinction of being the only budget committee member of the school district budget committee to propose a cut that passed. And it was a tiny one, admittedly. And what we have seen is a couple of things over the last 6 years. First of all, the administration has come in with what I would call prudent and frugal budgets. We have remained below our default for the last 5 or 6 years at least. And that means that we have been trying to account for things like our declining student population. We have been able to compensate for costs like health care and the retirement system that have grown outside of our control and much faster than inflation by being more efficient in other areas. So what we've seen is that when we get to the budget committee, there have been multiple rounds of work done already by building leadership, which is your principals and assistant principals, by the administration and the district office, by the school board, and then the budget committee kind of comes in at the end to just oversee and make sure that we haven't missed anything. You know, you've got 12 more sets of eyes on the budget, and what we've seen by and large is that they've validated what the board has done. So I view the budget committee as, its role is to make sure that we are spending prudently, but it's not just there to simply cut the budget. You know, it's there to make sure that our spending is wise. And that includes, by the way, saying that if they think that the district is not investing enough in an important area, that they have the right to do that as well, up to 10% more than what the school district or school board put in. So I think that the budget committee's role has been a work in progress over the last few years. It's been trying to spend a lot of time this year trying to look at that role and determine how it could be maybe a more active participant earlier in the process. But I think it will evolve over time because it really started kind of from scratch about 5 years ago.
Thank you. Mr. Markwell?
I'll kind of echo something I've already said. Identified that the school board did offer us approximately over a 2-year contract about $900,000 in savings. Had they not provided pay raises, that would have been a great start. So right there, $900,000 would have been savings to the district. Would have helped control costs and meet some of the loss of state funding that we're expecting. The other area I identified with co-budget committee member, Bill Boyd, we identified about $1.5 million in spending cuts that could have been put in place without significantly affecting staff and co-curricular. So I believe there is about $2.4 million in the budget that could be cut with concessions and those other programs that were mentioned during the budget committee meetings. All those were voted down. The budget committee was very set on passing through the school board's budget pretty much as it stood. As to the question of the budget committee, there's low cost involved with the budget committee. I think all we really have to pay is for janitorial services to close down the buildings after our meeting's done. I'm not sure if there's a cost to the town for the cable video portion of it, but I believe that's covered with our contract with Comcast, so I don't see there's any additional cost there. It is a second set of eyes. I'm not against the budget committee due to the fact that there is no real additional cost to have them as a second set of eyes on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the town council. I think we'll talk about Article 6 and 7 together. Article 6, shall the town of Merrimack raise and appropriate the sum of $155,154 for the purpose of restoring 2 existing full-time firefighter emergency medical technicians. And Article 7, shall the town of Merrimack raise and appropriate the sum of $86,508 for the purpose of restoring 1 existing full-time police officer. If we could have your thoughts on Articles 6 and 7. Mr. Rothaus, please, if you would.
Thank you. Articles 6 and 7, over the past 4 years or so, but in particular, surely this past year, the goal of the council was to attempt to maintain a flat property tax rate on the town side of the ledger. As our budget cycle progressed, I started to come to the realization that that might not be a practical idea. So we have looked at, over the past few years, many positions in town that have been reorganized or eliminated. And this year it got to the police and fire department. Both the police and fire chief told the council that while it might not be their first choice, they would be able to, through scheduling shifts and so on, deal with the loss of personnel. And so that's why I supported that move. There is the reality that as the next 2 years progress, with Chelsea outlets coming online, we will be revisiting manpower for sure. But for the time being, with the very difficult economy that we have been enduring, it was an unfortunate, difficult decision that the council made. But thanks.
Thank you. Mrs. Snell, please.
Thank you. On Article 6 and Article 7, I feel that the town council had a very difficult decision to make when they proposed the elimination of the 2 firefighters and the 1 full-time police officer. And I just feel that, again, we're looking for, Merrimack is growing, obviously, and we're looking to continue that growth. With the Chelsea malls coming in, with the airport access road, I just feel like maybe we could look at another way to save some money. Merrimack is a wonderful place to live. I'll tell anyone it's a great place to live. It's a safe place. That's because, a lot to do with our police department and our fire department. I just think if we could look at maybe another area to cut, I just think they're a critical part of our community, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd, please.
Thank you. I support Article 6, Article 7 for a variety of reasons, one of which is if the new fire station should come to fruition, we need to make sure that the station is adequately staffed. And if we envision the growth burgeoning down in the south end of town, it's important to maintain an adequate level of public safety staffing ready and able in case a situation arises. So when I think about public safety, I'm looking at it strictly from do we have currently right now enough people on the force that are maintaining our quality of life, keeping our streets safe, and making sure that laws are being abided by out on the roadways. And I think to fire, for all intents and purposes, of a firefighter, first responder, or a policeman is kind of ill-cited. I would argue that the responsibility should fall on the police chief and the fire chief in town. If there are efficiencies to be gained, it should be our chiefs that make that particular decision. They may be able to obtain that through a member going to another community. There could be a retirement. There could be a variety of different reasons. I think the chiefs we task with the responsibility of managing these departments, and they know their departments well, and I think we should allow them to manage their staff at the current level as it exists. I'm definitely not at this stage want to be putting more firefighters or more patrolmen on the payroll. I think Councilor Rothaus, I believe, is correct, that the growth issue, I think, is going to force us to revisit that in probably 2013 and 2014, but then that's probably putting the cart before the horse. So I would argue we've got a very adequate level of staffing in the community. I think they do a beyond competent job. They're professional in what they do. And if any decisions need to be made regarding efficiencies, it should be the chiefs that make that decision. So I support 6 and 7.
Thank you. Mr. Lyman, please.
Well, I agree with Finley also. I don't support 6 and 7. The police and the fire departments both have a budget of $5.1 million each. We have $112,000 coming up in the capital outlay for 4 cruisers, which that totals about $3.2 million. I support what the police department and what the fire department do. I have nothing against what they do. I think they're very professional, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. But in these days, we've got to look at the total picture. And if we don't have the money for it, right now we don't have the money for it. I don't know where you're going to get it, unless everybody in this town wants to stop by those departments and just open your wallets, because that's what's going to take. We have to look at someplace. Now, there are some items here you cannot control, but in this instance, we can control. Maybe not, doing it this year, possibly next year, next budget. But you're going to have to go back through the whole budget and look. It'd be nice to get everything you ever want, but you can't. There's just so much money to go around. And one of these days, the well's going to empty. And I hate to see it, but that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the school board. There are several questions about the school resource officers. What is your position on the necessity of having school resource officers assigned full-time to the upper elementary, middle, and high schools? And would you support a motion to fund these services through the school budget? Mr. Markwell, please.
I would be against school resource officer at elementary and middle level. I do support a resource officer at the high school. I think that's been proven to be invaluable to have a resource officer at the high school. At the lower grades, I don't, especially where one of our elementaries is right across the street from the police station. Response time would be pretty quick. I do support the high school resource officer, but I would not support middle or elementary.
Thank you.
Well, I of course support our high school resource officer, Mike Murray. He's actually been recognized as one of the best high school resource officers in the country. And actually, we already have resource officers at the middle school and upper elementary in various roles. The one at the middle school, I support wholeheartedly, because that was actually done through the work of the Merrimack Safeguard Project, what used to be the Drug Advisory Task Force, and it is paid for wholly by a federal grant. It is proven to be extremely valuable, dealing with not just discipline issues like you might think of a police officer dealing with, but these are actually community outreach officers, and they have that role within the community to try to identify issues. For example, a kid who isn't showing up at school, it may not just be a truancy issue, it may be an issue that is happening at the family, at home, where there are issues that will get much worse as the child gets older. Once you're in 7th and 8th grade, anyone who's had 7th and 8th grade children knows what a tumultuous time that is, and that is the foundation of issues that come up later in high school. Now with upper elementary, of course, we also have the officer there who, for those parents, you may be familiar with the DARE program, which is, we now have kind of our local flavor of that. And I think that's been, again, exceptionally valuable on a couple of levels. First of all, it introduces kids to police officers with a positive interaction. And I don't think you can overstate the value of that. You don't want kids' first interaction with a police officer to be the time when they get told, don't ride your bike across the street in traffic, or some other negative type of interaction. And of course, there is the whole drug abuse, substance abuse avoidance type of education also extending into bullying. And of course, with the state legislature passing the anti-bullying statutes, that it will become an integral part of our anti-bullying work in the schools. So overall, I think that those three officers do a terrific job. They get kudos from all of the parents, the students, the staff that deal with them. And then if you think about it just from a purely logistical point of view, if you had a gathering of, say, 1,500 people somewhere in town, and, oh, by the way, 90% of those people were going to be teenagers, you'd want a police officer there. And that's what our schools are every day. It is a gathering of well over 1,000 teenagers. I don't know about you, but I feel much more comfortable having our resource officers right there where they could be needed.
Thank you. Next question for Town Council. Please comment on the new $300 per month stipend. Mrs. Snell, please.
Mr. Parmenter, I'm sorry I don't know enough about that to have any input there.
Okay.
Thank
Pass.
you.
Very good. Mr. Boyd, please.
I'm dead set against it. As people know in this community, I've participated in boards over the last 4 years, and I've done so voluntarily because I want to give back to the community. I want to serve. And at times it's probably a thankless job, but public service to me is not about a paycheck. It's about giving back to the community. So quite honestly, I'm going to refuse the stipend, and what I would probably do is instruct the town manager to place it to the firefighters have won a $55,000 grant where the town has to provide a $7,000 match, and I would instruct that my portion be allocated towards that match so that the firefighters can get their winter weather equipment.
Thank you. Mr. Lynham, please.
Well, it's awful nice to get a little something extra, but I won't accept it. No one else has ever done it before. I won't do it either. I will donate it to various programs here in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothaus?
Well, I don't want anybody to think that I've been doing this for the money, because I haven't, but no, not at all. The stipend is something that, when it was voted on by the town council, it doesn't take effect unless you're re-elected or newly elected to the position. I will be taking the stipend, because what I found over the years, things that I would use that stipend for when it was paid to the Board of Selectmen, I would use to pay for the events that I would attend as a counselor. So, not that I've done it often, but I would have the bill submitted to the town hall for their payment, as opposed to digging into my own pocket. With the stipend, that stops happening. That's what that money's supposed to be used for. And so I will be accepting it, if I make it onto the town council, that is.
The school board. Beginning with the 2011-12 school year, Merrimack High School will begin adopting competency-based approach to student assessment prescribed by the New Hampshire Department of Education. Please discuss how you expect this implementation to impact students and their measurable progress achievement in both the short and the long term. If you need that repeated, speak up. It was a little lengthy. Again, how do you expect the competency-based approach to impact the students and their measurable progress achievement in both the short and long term? Mr. Swanger, please.
Sure. So the competencies that we've been developing at the high school, it's kind of the culmination of this standards-based education work that we've done through the elementary and now into the middle school. And part of the point of doing this is to ensure that students get a education that's uniform, to the extent that you don't have to worry about, say, which teacher your child has, or whether they're going to learn as much in one class as they might if they had the class in a different period or something like that. So when we have that in place, what we've found, for example, at the elementary school level, is that we can make advances that can affect the entire class. I'll give you an example. There's been a lot of feelings about the everyday math program at the elementary school, some pro, some con. But one of the things we found as we've tested students over the years is that one area of curriculum that is weak in that math program is what we call math facts, just a simple, quick, what's 8 plus 4, what's 3 times 9, that kind of stuff. So what we've embarked on in the district is this effort to be able to improve that. And we're able to do that across the district because we know that every child is getting the same basic set of information delivered in the same basic ways. Now, it doesn't infringe on the classroom teacher's freedom to augment the curriculum and teach in various ways, but it ensures that if we add a new type of teaching or a new subject matter, that all the children will be ready to handle it. So if you look at this from, if you're familiar with manufacturing, for example, one of those things that you want when you're improving quality is to have a really defined, measurable outcome, because one of the sayings is you cannot improve what you can't measure. So this is a necessary first step in that progress, and it will really feed into this whole continuous improvement as we go along. And we've seen a lot of progress in things like our standardized test scores over the last couple of years, and this will just help continue that.
Thank you. Mr. Markwell, please.
Standardized testing is nothing new to schools. We're doing all kinds of standardized testing. It started with the California test many years ago, where most of the curriculum was based on the California standard achievement testing. Standardized testing, as identified by Mr. Swanger, will, of course, help us with areas that need improvement, identify issues within the school, and let us know where we have a standard. See where those children are, what areas might need to be improved, what areas we're doing well in.
Thank you. This next question I'm going to pose to all the candidates, both groups. We've heard a lot during the run-up to the deliberative sessions and the elections about what is wrong with Merrimack town government and Merrimack schools. I would like to hear what the candidates think is right about the town government schools. So what do you think is working, is positive? Start with town council. Mr. Boyd, please.
The thing that's right about town government is right now. I know this is a forum, this is a debate, but we've got concerned people that come in here that care about what's going on, not just at the town council level, what's going on in the school board level. So I think there's a certain segment of people that they're here because they care. They're here because they see that there's something good, but they know that we can do better. We can do better in how we manage our civic affairs daily. What's good is when I walk through that door for my planning board meetings, I know I'm coming in here and I'm doing a job that there's some other people in town that would love to do it but may not have the opportunity to do it. And I'm being a part of the process on their behalf, having an impact on variances and developments that are coming before the planning board in a very positive sense, making sure that the questions are being asked and that we're not leaving stones unturned. And I see that, at the school budget committee. I've seen it at the zoning board. We see it at the town council and the school board that, we ask the right questions. And I think that's what's right about what we're doing, is that we've got good people stepping up to the plate and asking the right questions and being mindful of who we represent, who we serve. And I think to me, that's what's best. I mean, people disagree on a variety of different issues. That's a part of the public discourse. But the discourse is what's good about this community. We're able to talk about our issues. We're able to leave here when we're done. We're able to go to the Homestead or Dunkin' Donuts or to Swan's and have a cup of coffee or a beer and talk about the decisions and talk about it. Because that's the only way we're going to get better. And the fact that we're talking about it and we're talking about it in this forum is the best example of democracy in a constitutional republic.
Thank you. Mr. Lynham, please.
Well, personally, I think anybody in the town government that volunteers their time, they're truly there because they want to do something to do it right. They don't go into this job or any other volunteer job because they have an axe to grind. They go into it because they truly, truly want to do something for this town. And I have to applaud them all for that. And it's, if I could, I'd stand up and clap now, because I think they do a tremendous job for what they have to do. I may not agree with them. Thank God that's our right. But I do have to applaud them for actually taking the time, doing it, and doing it to the best of their ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothaus, please.
Yes, I think, well, periodically the council has put surveys out, and of course the grand debate is what questions should go on those surveys. You want to make sure you're getting information that is worthwhile and understandable and has a result that gives you an honest assessment. But what I found in those surveys is when the questions were asked about our different town departments, every one of them came out on the high side of a great rating. People enjoy, appreciate the services that they receive, whether it's fire and police or DPW, the way their streets are generally taken care of in the winter months and so on. It's all turned out very positively. So I think that is what is working well in Merrimack.
Thank you. Mrs. Snell?
Thank you. I feel that the people that are volunteering their time on the school board, on the town council, anyone that's working to represent the people of Merrimack, again, they obviously care very much about their community and the people, and I think that it really works. I think that the people having the opportunity to voice their opinions, the community voice their opinions, their concerns, and to hopefully know that the people that have elected in these positions are listening to them and going to make decisions and choices on the best, for their best behalf of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Markwell, please. What do you think is right about the schools and the school systems?
Some of the things that popped into mind just as the council, people running for council were speaking, our bands, our music department, our choruses, the sports teams in Merrimack, the things that are going right in our schools, our technology departments, our amount of computers that are in the facilities, the advantage of having access to that type of technology, service above the state standards, below average class size, and then, of course, the parents that do take the time to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Swanger, please.
When it comes to what's right in the town in general, and a lot of the same themes could be echoed on the school side as the town side. The volunteerism, and it's one of these things that's unique to America, actually. If you look around the world, Americans volunteer more than any other country. And you see that in the schools where we've had continual blue ribbon awards for the amount of volunteerism. We see it, and we shouldn't get locked into the 6 people up here when we're talking about government, because it's not just the town council and the school board. It's all those boards that you don't get candidates night for, whether it's the planning board or the zoning board or the folks who give out the Boston Post cane when it changes hands and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of goodness about that. And what I've seen over the last few years, especially since I've been on the board, is we've tried to increase the cooperation between the school and town sides. We've had those joint meetings, and some of it has culminated in things such as, yes, the school board donating land to the town for the fire station. What many people don't know is that the town had previously donated land to the school for the future district office consolidation site. So there's that level of cooperation that helps everybody, because whether it's school or town side, we are all still in Merrimack. Beyond that, on the school side, one of the things that I really see is that we have an absolutely terrific administration. And I've seen this because when I was in leadership in New Hampshire, and I met people such as one of the Republican members of the state school board, who happens to be a firefighter in Manchester, and he was a state rep in Hooksett. I know the superintendent of schools in Manchester. I've talked to people everywhere from the governor's office under both of the last administrations to the current one. And anywhere you go in the state, we have an administration that is extremely highly regarded as possibly the best in the state in terms of running a school district. And that percolates down through the staff to the point, one of the things that gets us, for example, is that we actually pay below average wages in our school district, yet we are able to attract and retain a very high caliber of staff. So top to bottom and across the board, I think we have great people volunteering, and we end up with really good employees who do a fine job.
Thank you. Okay, town council candidates. If Article 8 passes and pay-as-you-throw is voted down, where would you look to find funding for the transfer station operations? And Article 8 is, shall the voters of the town of Merrimack vote to instruct the town council to reverse their earlier decision to implement pay-as-you-throw trash disposal in the town of Merrimack? So the question then becomes, if that's voted down and the council were to consider not implementing it, how would you provide the funding? Thomas Lynham, please.
If pay-as-you-throw is voted down, you're still going to have a problem with the increased tipping fees. And that's only going to lead to an increase in your taxes. I mean, I know it, and you know it. As far as funding, the difference, it's going to come out of your taxes. That's the way it is, plain and simple. But when you've got a proposed budget of $29.2 million and your default is 27.1, you've got a difference of $2 million, which you're gonna have to come up with otherwise. That, I know, I understand where pay-as-you-throw was supposed to help alleviate, to lower your taxes to $4.22 from $4.50. And as far as funding, the only thing you're gonna be able to do, if you do vote it down, is you're gonna have to come up with other solutions. And number one would be come up with a user fee for the town service for the dump. I'm an old timer. By charging for your stickers, for every sticker. If you live in an apartment, if you pay to have your trash picked up at your house, you're gonna have to pay. I mean, everybody's gonna have to be in the same boat. It's just not gonna be somebody buying a bag, throwing it in. It's the only way you're gonna be able to fund it. It's a lot of money, folks, but that's the only way I see it.
Thank you. Mr. Rothaus, please.
Yes, it's an interesting situation that we find ourselves in with regard to Article 8. There's going to be a deficit that, without the pay-as-you-throw bag fee, the only way that you can, in fact, dig yourself out of it, in my estimation, without passing it on to the tax rate, is to encourage recycling. The whole pay-as-you-throw scheme, which I did vote against, was to cause cost avoidance. It was to shift your recyclables that many people, more than 85% of the users of the transfer station, or about 85%, don't recycle. And it's about getting those folks to take their recyclables out of the transfer station and bring them over to the recycling facility. That will avoid $65 of liability and turn it today into a $15 revenue for the town. So the more that we could do that and get buy-in for that, the less need there would be for pay-as-you-throw, in my opinion. So I think that if I make it back onto the town council, the focus of our new town manager and our council as a whole, in my opinion, is to work very diligently to educate the townspeople on the benefits of recycling, to take that garbage and put it where it actually belongs. 2 more years from now, that cost, in my estimation, will be up to about $120 a ton as opposed to the $65 we currently pay. It's a very important thing, and I think that would be the best way to tackle it, is through cooperation of the townspeople.
Thank you. Mrs. Snell, please.
I feel that if we were to come up with, if pay-as-you-throw was not to go through, if we were to come up with another way to offset the tipping fees, which we all know are going to increase, such as Mr. Lyman suggested as far as a sticker. From what I understand, we've only got about 3,000, and I don't want to quote an exact number, but from what I understand, there's about 3,000 stickers that are issued. I've learned that those stickers aren't always, the vehicles coming in and out of the transfer station aren't always being checked for stickers. So if there was a flat fee charged of, say, $30 or $40 per sticker, times the 3,000 that are currently out there, that's $120,000 based on $40 for the sticker. There's one way to offset the tipping fees. The other thing that I've been hearing is that a lot of the residents in Bedford are sneaking in and using our transfer station, which is costing the town money. There needs to be more diligence as far as checking the vehicles coming in and out to make sure that those stickers are on those cars. There's no reason we should be paying for the Bedford residents' abilities to be using our transfer station. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd, please.
Thank you. I think before you even consider doing a user fee or raising taxes, which, you know, I don't think you can take those options off the table. I really don't. I think you have to consider looking at reduction of hours at the transfer station, looking at the numbers from transitioning from our old way of recycling to single source. We've lost monies on the transition to single source. We're exploring an opportunity to join a cooperative. The cooperative itself is still in its embryonic stages and hasn't even begun to have their single source facility up and running yet. So I think we should really consider eliminating single source and go back to what we had before as a temporary measure while the council revisits the solid waste issue. It's been public that they do want to revisit this issue. They want to have a committee created for the sole purpose of kind of putting our solid waste issue to bed for once and for all. Realistically, I mean, I hate to say this, but I think a good thing to consider as a part of the conversation is privatizing the transfer station, having like a Casella Waste Management or a BFI come in, privatize it, professional management, create a leasing agreement with them to generate a revenue source at the transfer station. That could be a way to manage those particular costs. The thing that I look at though is the transfer station, our solid waste is, it's little over $1 million in close to a $30 million budget, and it accounts for 3.5% of our budget. But yet it seems like it's the last line of defense of where we can cut and where we can kind of, pardon the expression, try and get blood from a stone. So I think realistically we need to be looking at it as next year as potentially a transition year, and explore our options for the future, whether it be pay T, whether it be privatizing the transfer station, whether it's Casella Management just put this out a couple of weeks ago, $24.95 a month. You have, if you, and I kind of agree with Mrs. Snell's assessment with 3,000 stickers, that means people in town are paying about $350, $400 a year to use the transfer station. Well, $25 a month, that's, do the arithmetic, it's about, it's about $200. It's about $250, $300. So there's actually a value to, having true. I would view this as true pay T, free market system, true pay T. Having a company come in and just do it at this particular rate. I'm not going to profess to have all the answers, but I think it's been the bane of existence in this town for a very long period of time. And I think if I should be elected to the town council, I'd like to work with everybody to develop some type of consensus so that we're addressing the solid waste needs. And obviously, that should include a comprehensive recycling plan.
Thank you. The school board candidates. Students at the high school may not drop out at 16. For those students having difficulty remaining in school until they're 18, what programs would you support to provide the help that they need to stay in school until they're 18? They cannot drop out at 16, they must stay until 18. What programs would you provide to encourage that and to facilitate that for those students? Okay. Mr. Swanger, please.
Sure. Well, we have a couple of really effective programs already in place, and that's why our dropout rate is so low compared to the rest of the state. The state average dropout rate is 6.2% over 4 years. We're down at 3.1%, and that has dropped every year. The programs that we have in place, one of them is called Evening Academy. That allows kids to take an extra course and make up credits so that if they can't, for example, if you find yourself in your junior year and you know that you're behind in credits, that will help you get enough credits so that you can stay on track to graduate with your class, because graduating with your class is a huge incentive for kids that age. They don't want to be that one kid who's left behind after their senior year with all the kids who are younger. We also have some online education programs that help kids find other subjects that aren't necessarily offered in person at a high school. So things like NovaNet and other distance learning programs that allow them to pursue those interests that, again, when you keep kids engaged in the school, then it's much more likely that they'll succeed. Anyone knows that if you're doing something that you're interested in, you're much more likely to succeed at it. And then finally, of course, we do have leveled classes at the high school. We have honors and AP at the highest end. We have college prep classes. We have standard, and then we have foundation level classes. And one of the things we do at those foundation level classes for those kids who need the most help is we have the smallest class sizes. So when you have, say, college prep classes where those kids in a senior year college prep math program, they're going to have 30 kids in their class. And I think that's entirely appropriate because you know what? The next year in college, they're going to have 200 kids in that lecture hall. Whereas at the foundation level, those are generally going to be kids not going on to four-year college, but for whom that high school diploma has exceptional value, and giving them the most attention on a teacher-student ratio basis really helps.
Thank you. Town council.
Do you want me to answer that?
My apologies. I'm sorry, I should pay attention to my own sheet here. Mr. Rockwell, please.
A couple of quick things that came to mind were peer reach out. It's a very important time, especially in high school. People are generating friendships that could last a lifetime. Using peers, honors students, students that are specializing in interest areas that might attract students that are struggling. So that peer reach out, I would use that. I would get volunteerism from students who will talk to kids that are struggling, find out maybe ways we could generate interests. I know in high school sometimes it was hard to stay alert, hard to focus on what the teacher was saying because you were thinking about driving or you were thinking about going to a party that weekend or some other social event. So peer reach out is important. Kids that are excelling to reach out to children that are struggling. Guest speakers, folks that could come in and talk about, you know, what would happen if you didn't finish your high school program, where you'd be, what you could expect out there in the real world. I think sometimes it's hard to think about what's going to happen in 10 or 15 years when you're 16 years old. Important to also have low-cost evening or maybe summer programs for students to catch up, especially if they're struggling. That smaller class size, more personal attention will help a student focus better. And of course, internet learning. The internet is key to everyone's life now. There's plenty of ways to do school through the net. Thank you.
Now for the town council. Article 9. In summary, Article 9 is an amendment to the charter, which would say that the manager need not, the town manager, need not be a resident of the town of the state of New Hampshire at the time of appointment, but must reside within a reasonable distance or response time agreeable to the town council. Currently, the charter says that the manager must establish residence within town within a period fixed by the town council. Just your thoughts on that warrant Article 9, whether the town manager should continue to be required to live in town, or it could be waived, or not a requirement of the charter per se. Okay, Finley Rothaus, please.
Yes, I actually had the privilege of sitting on the Charter Commission when we came up with that requirement, and today I still believe that should be a requirement of any town manager that works in Merrimack. I believe the perception becomes reality for many people, and when a town manager is known to live outside of the community, it becomes the reality in people's mind that they don't seem to care as much for their community. There's a loyalty component to it, I believe, as well. There's a managers association, the ICMA, I can't remember what it stands for now, but the claim in that, according to a fellow counselor, is that in fact most managers believe it's a requirement on their own. They would do it without it being written in the personnel policy. So I do not support Article 9 and want to be sure our town manager resides in Merrimack.
Thank you. Mrs. Snell, please.
I believe that the town manager should also reside in the town. I just feel that they have a much stronger vested interest in the town if they're living here. And again, perception, as Finley mentioned, that I think people feel more comfortable if they know that the town manager is here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd?
I support the amendment. I think it's no secret that when our prior manager, when he was trying to make the accommodation to live in town, it was a huge struggle for him because of the housing market. I think it's prohibitive to ask somebody who's coming into town to, manage our affairs, to, especially in this economy, to ask them to sell their home and buy a new home in Merrimack. I agree with Councilor Rothaus and Mrs. Snell. I think realistically, and you want your town manager in town to have a vested interest in the community. I think we should be wholeheartedly encouraging the town manager to live in the community and be an active participant in it. But the way the economy is right now, I think it's prohibitive to have that imposition on a town manager. So for those particular reasons, I do support the amendment, and thank you.
Mr. Lynham?
I also think the town manager should live in town. If the town council gives them, let's say, 9 months to move, find a new home here, that's nothing any different than any corporation would ask any of their employees to do if they shipped you off to another state. If you owned your own home here, just like in the military, you have to sell your home, you have to go to do another job. If you're willing to accept this job, then one of the requirements should be you have to live in this town. If you have anything to do with the budget that affects anybody in this town, it should affect you too. If you expect the residents and the businesses to pay taxes in this town, you should also not take our money out of this town to pay taxes in another city. If you can't live here, don't take the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one last question, and we'll wrap it up. School board candidates. What is the value of meeting the state's minimum standards, say in lower class sizes? Do you favor and support lower teacher-student ratios in all grades? Do you favor and support lower teacher-student ratios in all grades? Okay, Mr. Markwell, please.
Well, that's kind of an easy one. We actually have a declining enrollment in Merrimack, so we are getting less class size due to attrition. I do support smaller class sizes. I think at the high school level, we can be closer to that state maximum of 30. I believe there is a lab requirement of 24, so we would have to abide by that. But I would in the high school setting, I would support a larger class size. In elementary, I would support a smaller class size. Younger children might be a little bit more difficult to deal with. You're hoping that older children do have some of the basic mannerisms to make it through the day, and with support of the school resource officer to help with anyone too unruly. So I would support larger classes in the high school level, smaller classes in elementary, middle. Thank you.
Mr. Swanger, please.
Okay, I'll confess to not understanding the part about meeting the state minimum standards for class size, because that's not a question. You have to have class sizes no more than 30 at the various levels. And in fact, there are standards that say at the elementary school level you have lower class sizes, and that's what we have in Merrimack. We have class sizes just under 20 at the lower elementary levels. They rise bit by bit as you go up older, because as kids are more mature, you do expect them to be able to conduct themselves in a larger group appropriately. And as I mentioned, with the different levels of courses at the high school, we have different class sizes. So we expect those college-bound, those honors, those AP students, to be able to conduct themselves in very nearly, especially by junior, senior years, very nearly a college environment. Now, would I support lower class sizes across the board? At this time, no, I don't think so, because lower class sizes across the board that's a lot of money, and it's a lot of facilities. There's two aspects to lower class sizes. First of all, of course, every class is going to have a teacher. Right now, we have class sizes in Merrimack that are slightly above the state average, 5 to 10%, which it means 1 or 2 kids higher. So where surrounding districts might have 22 kids in a grade 3 or 4 class, we would have 24. And I think we've proven that that works just fine. We've done very well that way. But if you wanted to build 10% more classrooms to lower your class sizes and hire 10% more staff to do it, well, that's a lot of money. With 70% of our budget already going to salaries and benefits, and with no perceptible place to build out the high school and at least, well, the 3 elementaries, I don't see how that would be practical. What I'd like to finish by saying, when it comes to class sizes, there's always a debate about this, and there's this kind of common sense notion that says smaller is always better. And we had this discussion in spades last year when we talked about and ended up removing the team from the middle school. Well, one of the things we've tried to do on the school board, and that the administration is very passionate about, is making decisions based on actual data and decisions that are supported by research. And what the research and practice shows is that lower class sizes do help, but only when you get down below about 19 kids in a class. If you lower class sizes from, say, 26 to 24, any improvement there is at the noise level. It's almost immeasurable and could be due to other factors. What we really need to focus on is attracting and retaining really high-quality teachers. And that's what's been our focus, is to make sure that we have the best possible professional staff, because the #1 influence on an education is how good is that teacher. And that's why I think we have a very fine set of very experienced teachers in this district, and that's why we've produced such high results, even having class sizes that are slightly above average.
Thank you. Okay, that'll do it for the questions this evening. Each candidate will now get about a minute or so to make a closing statement. If you would, we'll begin with the town council, Mrs. Snell.
In a time where we see catastrophic issues taking place all over the world, we always see one common thread. That common thread is the people coming together in a time of need. I'd like to be there for the people of Merrimack to help foster the need of us coming together. I won't always have the right answers, but I will listen, learn, and make the best choices possible for the town of Merrimack. It would be an honor to serve the town, and I would really appreciate your vote on April 12th. A vote for Carrie Snell will be a vote for the people of Merrimack. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd, please.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer, and thanks again to the Exchange Club for putting on this forum, and to Cable Access for reaching out to our community tonight. The theme, as I've kind of talked about a little bit, is about moving Merrimack forward. And I think we're at a particular point in our time where we need to be very good stewards in this community of how we manage our finances, about how we manage our natural resources, and quite honestly, how we are able to deal with each other individually in the community. And we're going to be facing some changes over the next couple of years. And I would like to earn the support of the community here in Merrimack to be their voice on the town council on April 12th, so that I can do my best to build consensus, to provide ideas and provide thought as to how we can move Merrimack forward. I hope to earn your vote, and I hope to earn your trust on April 12th with that vote, because I really look forward to continuing to serve the people here in the town of Merrimack. And I thank you for your time, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wynum?
I'd also like to thank you and thank everybody for listening to us. Myself, I'm not a politician. I don't have an axe to grind. I'm not mad at anybody. What I am mad about is the way our country's economy is going. Most economies are in a V economy. You hit the bottom, you bounce back. We are in a U. We're just at the bottom of that U. We've got a long ways to go. Myself, I like to listen. I won't agree with everybody, but I will listen. I've always jumped right in. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of anybody. My personal views on these items are my personal views. If the town votes on these articles, I will abide by their vote. That's what we're all here for. It's not a personal gain for me. I just want to represent everybody that I possibly can. And you've got a bunch of good candidates up here. It's your choice. At least vote. Tell your friends to get out and vote. Let's get more than 2,000 this time. You know, it's pretty doggone bad. You know, 2011, you can only get 2,000 people out of 27,000 people. Okay, so we have what, 3,000, 4,000 kids? Where are the adults? Get out and vote. It's your God-given right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothaus?
Thank you, Ted, for moderating our get-together here, and thank you to the Exchange Club for having it available for us to participate in. First, I can be reached at 494-0893. I do have an email address at finley.rothaus@comcast.net. However, I prefer the phone call. I want to let you know that I think the next few years in Merrimack are going to be a very exciting time. I think with the completion of that airport access road, the explosion in the economy that we see will be something to be part of. I think that my past few years on the council, I've been found to be approachable and a voice of reason on the council, and I do ask for your support once again on April 12th so that I might have the privilege of serving for another 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Swanger, please.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks for moderating again. You're getting to be a pro at this. I would just like to thank everybody for watching and spending what ended up being a very quick hour and a half watching us talk. And thank everybody here for running, because putting yourself out there is never easy. Getting everyone else's opinion about you, up or down. I think I've learned a lot on the school board in my term, and I hope I've developed at least some reputation for doing my homework and really taking time to look at an issue from all sides. A lot of what goes on when you're dealing with budgets, when you're dealing with education, is very complicated, complex, and if anybody had all the right answers now, then we'd all be doing it the same way, and that's just not the case. So there's always room for opinion and improvement. I do have a lot of things that I want to still accomplish, because one of the things that you find out when you get into public service is the ship of state turns very slowly, and I think anyone who's served can recognize that. So yes, I believe that there's unfinished business to do, but at the same time, I think we've got that ship sailing in the right direction. We've managed to control our costs and at a prudent rate in the district without, we're not panicking, but yet we're trying to not burden the taxpayers, and at the same time, we're providing a great environment for our kids to learn, for our staff to work in, and that's showing results every aspect of our schools and every day. So I hope that in my term on the board, I've earned your support, and if I have, please come out and vote on April 12th.
Thank you. Mr. Markwell?
As I said, I'm George Markwell. I'm running for school board. I would appreciate your vote on April 12th. A couple of things. My goal, of course, staff last. My plan and hope is to defeat the proposed teacher's contract, so I hope that the town will join me in voting no on that. I think we need to send a message back that We can't afford pay raises right now and pink slips. I don't think that's a good plan for anyone, any district or any town. We also should vote no on the proposed new building for SPED and admin. I'm hoping you'll join me on voting no for warrant 5 as well. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to the candidates night tonight, the folks at home for watching, and the Exchange Club for hosting.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Well, that concludes the question and answer session. We thank the audience very much for coming out. A lot of good questions and a number of questions we didn't have time for. But I know in the past, last year, Brian had offered to take some of the questions that didn't get posed, post them on merrimackvotes.org, correct, Brian? With the candidates' permission. He's agreed to do that again this year, and we do have mainly school board questions, but I'll get with Brian if the members are agreeable to that. They can answer or not if they're, I don't know. Okay, so thank you for that. We had sufficient questions to get through the evening. Good questions, too, and more. Thank to the town staff for allowing us to use the meeting room, especially to Nick LaValle and the media staff for setting this all up for us and broadcasting it live this evening and rebroadcasting it for us. We do appreciate that. And I personally thank especially Ed Smith for chairing this event, as he's done many times in the past, and getting things set up, and Sally Kinney for coming out, and Norman Phillips and the club to help show up this evening and help us out. Just remind everybody to get out there and vote. It's April 12th. Get out there, and you should be more informed now than you were when you came here. So get out there and make some decisions. Help us out. Thank you very much for your help this evening.